Did you know that Washington State is in the top 25? Yeah, number 22 in the country. I think that's plenty deserved. Now, the question that you all should care about is, can they become a playoff chaos team? Can they actually get an at-large bid to college football playoff? Because the Pac-12 is not going to play a conference championship because, well, you only have two teams in it right now. Boise State and friends are not going to arrive for a couple of seasons. But the question about Washington State, I'm not going to give the answer that Cougar fans want to hear. If they win the rest of their games, which they should, I mean, they struggled against San Jose State earlier this year. They struggled against San Diego State, who are unbeaten in Mountain West Conference play so far, but I don't think they're a conference title contender in the Mountain West. That's Boise State and everybody else right now. UNLV is good, but anyway, I digress. Washington State does not have the schedule to lock in an at-large college football playoff resume, because if they go 11-1, their lone loss of the season would be at Boise State. Now, the Broncos may very well win the rest of their games. They could wind up 12-1, the Mountain West champs in the college football playoff. That in it of itself wouldn't be a bad loss. Here's the issue. How many people you think actually watched that game and know that it was closer than the 45-24 final score indicated? I know that. You know that. Does the playoff committee know that? Do they remember that? Do they care about that? Perhaps not. So then you're looking at a schedule that has 7 Mountain West opponents and 4 Power 4 opponents on it, and Oregon State struggling right now. So if you were to win that game in a few weeks, and I think they will, that's not that quality of a win. Cal just blasted them 44-7. Okay, so that win's not going to do a whole heck of a lot for you. Well, they've at least got Fresno State, who's fine. Fresno State they've got a pair of Power 4 wins, which is the primary reason they are ranked inside the top 25. They didn't just beat Texas Tech, they housed them, and Texas Tech keeps losing football games that they shouldn't. And Washington was a big win. I mean, the first Apple Cup post-realignment, that was an unbelievable day for Washington State. You're probably going to look back and say it was the highlight of the year to beat Washington in that game, because if the Cougars go 11-1 here, it is not a strong resume without a conference championship. For there to be an at-large opportunity for Washington State, a couple things have to happen. First, you of course have to win the next 4 football games. Secondly, you have to do it in an incredibly convincing fashion. You can't keep having 3-point wins against a team like San Diego State. You've got Utah State, at New Mexico, who's better than you think, at Oregon State, and host Wyoming. They're going to be favored, or at least they should be, in all 4 of those football games. They should win all 4 of those football games. But is this resume going to hold up against just to throw a team out there, for instance, that could be an at-large team, Notre Dame? The answer is no. Because if Notre Dame goes 11-1, Notre Dame will have a loss to Northern Illinois. Yeah, that's pretty bad. But that is negated by a win at Texas A&M, who are currently the only unbeaten team in the SEC. Notre Dame beat them week 1 at Kyle Field. That game right now is among the biggest obstacles Washington State faces to getting themselves in the college football playoff, because they don't have a win that they can look at. You need Texas Tech and Washington, this is the third point, to keep winning. I don't know that they're going to. I don't know what the status of Baron Morton is right now. He left last week's game, and Texas Tech's defense is a disaster. Now, winning that game by 21 points, yeah, that's a good marker there for Washington State. But you beat Washington by 5, who are currently 4-4. And I think Washington can find their way to a bowl game, but what if they lose to USC this week? Suddenly, that's going to become an uphill battle. So, yes, having a couple of Power 4 wins is solid, but the committee's not going to put in 2 at-large teams that are not conference champions. We don't know that for certain. You don't have to take that word as gospel if you're a Washington State fan listening to that and cringing that, wow, we could win 11 football games and not wind up in the playoff. Yep, it stinks. It's not ideal, but you're going to go back to that Boise State game and say, if that fourth quarter had played out differently, this whole situation would be different. Because I think the Broncos would still probably be ranked in the top 25 right now, and Washington State would be unbeaten. And a 12-0 team, yeah, of course that gets into the playoff. I don't think that even with the nature of this particular schedule, I don't think that would be argued. But Notre Dame, if they get it, now if Notre Dame loses, the opportunity opens up. That's what I think has to happen first and foremost. Before any of the other reasons, Notre Dame has to lose another football game. I really don't think the committee wants to put in two at-large, non-Power 4 conference teams that weren't vying for a conference championship this year. I just, that's my suspicion. That is my gut instinct when I try to read the tea leaves as to what's going to happen here in the first season of the 12-team playoff. So Notre Dame has to lose. They still have to go to USC. They still have to play Army. They've got to lose one of those football games. And then you can say, hey, we've got the stronger record. Hey, they're not playing the strongest schedule in the country. Now, Notre Dame's RPI probably at the end of the season going to be a lot higher than Washington State's. But hey, the Cougars would have a better record, and that has mattered before. So that's got to happen. But then you would need a lot of chaos to ensue, particularly in the SEC. Here's the good news. Here is the good news. Chaos is happening. The SEC has a lot of really good teams. They don't have a great dominant team that's going to run away with the conference championship. It's anybody's ball game right now. When you look at teams like Alabama or you look at teams like Ole Miss, both of whom have 2 losses. LSU has got a pair of losses as well. LSU and Bama, one of those teams is going to lose another game. And they might look at a 9-3 LSU or Bama and say, no, we rank them ahead of Washington State. You think they're going to do that with 8-4? They could, maybe. I don't think so. Help is often given to college football teams that hold their own and do what they have to do and control what they can control. You get a lot of chaos in this sport. We're about to enter November. The weather's going to turn in some states. You're going to get plenty of crazy games, and some teams just have to lose because they're going to play each other. So you want to look, if you're Washington State, at teams in the Big Ten like Indiana and say, can you lose some football games, please? Or can Ohio State lose 2 more times? Or can Ole Miss find a way to get to an 8-4 season? Or LSU or Bama? Those are the teams you'd likely be vying with for a college football playoff spot. And I haven't even gotten to the Big 12 just yet. The ACC is looking like it could be a 2-bid league if Clemson and Miami both win 11 regular season college football games. But as of now, the Big 12 would be a 2-bid league if trends continue. So you need at least one of those conferences, the Big 12 or the ACC, to be a 1-bid league where you don't have 2 teams in the regular season win 11 games. Because if that happens and those teams match up in the conference championship, I don't think the committee will punish the loser of a conference championship game. And that is the crappy part about all this realignment and such that would be coming to fruition in one particular moment. But that's just the reality I think Washington State is going to face, is they don't have the opportunity to play for a conference title. And so obviously they can't win one, but they also can't lose one and play in that game. So 11-1 Washington State might have a better record than 11-2 BYU. But BYU would probably have the higher ranking because they've played a tougher schedule at that point. I think you need 2 games record-wise of separation between yourself and any team in the ACC or any team in the Big 12 that isn't getting an automatic at-large bid. So Washington State could make their way into being a chaos team in the college football playoff here, getting themselves inside the top 25, but they don't have a big win remaining on the schedule, so I don't know how high the committee is going to move them up after each win, which is why they have to be dominant, and certainly they'll move up if teams ahead of them lose, usually. But remember, the AP voters currently have Missouri ranked in the top 25 for reasons I cannot comprehend, but I digress. You need a lot of help. A lot would have to go right. Is it a 0% chance? No. It is not. Is it a greater than 10% chance? I also do not believe that that is the case. So Washington State, interesting team to keep their eye on, but unfortunately for those fans up in Pullman, I think you're playing to keep yourself relevant in the college football landscape and showcase the strength of the Pac-12 going forward. They're off to a good start. They're doing their part more than Oregon State right now, who I think are going to have open tryouts like Kenny Dillingham did for kicker. They might be doing that on the defensive line here pretty soon. Hopefully they can get healthy during the bye week. But Washington State, playoff, that's tough. That is really, really hard to foresee. Notre Dame, got to go down. A couple SEC teams need to have 3 or 4 losses. Crazier things have happened, though. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time. And until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.